You probably have no idea what it is yet. You cannot get these in the UK right now. They were first released about 3 weeks ago in America. So what are they? Snapchat have released these things. There was a vending machine in California somewhere. On the website, it tells you where that's going to be, and then it's there for 24 hours only. It's pretty much the only way to get them unless you pay an extortionate amount to get them online. Let's check them out. So there's sunglasses that have a little camera in the corner. I'm not going to be using them while I play poker, but just for like general life stuff. I think they're so sick. You press this little button at the top and it records for up to 30 seconds, I think. Here they are. Maybe I look like a bit of a dick, I don't know, but I think they're cool. Fairly hungover, so making everything less bright is actually helping a little bit. Okay, so let's test them out. Step 1. Step 2 is pairing now. So I'm going to take a quick video of basically what I see. I'll be testing these out throughout the next few days to see what kind of cool footage we can get. It looks a little bit ridiculous, but especially at night, but whatever. We are back in action, playing some cash games, whole card cam. This is what it's all about. Let's go. Today we're at the Hippodrome in London. We are playing 2-5 Deep Stack. It's a game I never play, but for the sake of the vlog, I'm happy to test it out and see how this goes. I'm actually hoping in future that I can maybe set up a bigger game at the Hippodrome, maybe a 5-10 or 10-25 or higher maybe, who knows. But for now, this is what we've got to work with. I'm not really sure what I was expecting, but the table seems to be made up of a lot of young grinders and pros. So anyway, this hand, looking down at kings, we open to 15 in the hijack. Very standard. Small blind calls. And now the big blind raises to 70, playing around 1,000. So at this point I'm deciding what to do, and the small blind has 2 or 300 in his stack. I felt there was a chance he goes with his hand or calls 2 if I decide to call, so I decided to slow play. And I'm fine going to the flop freeway with this stack to pot ratio. There's definitely merit to flatting here occasionally anyway too. Unfortunately the small blind folds and we are heads up to the flop. Definitely not the flop we're looking for, but he checks to us quite quickly. When our opponent checks here, I expect him to have, at the very least, some kind of showdown value, and most likely a pocket pair or a weak ace, and occasionally aces. No reason to bet this hand, so we check back. He quickly leads into us on the 8 of diamonds for 60, which is smaller than he free bet to pre-flop. Seems a little weak. It would be nice to have the king of diamonds, but unfortunately we don't. But too strong to fold. 4 of hearts on the river, pairing the board, and he checks to us. Not many hands can call a bet, and he could be cautiously playing an ace, so we check. And he announces 7 high, which is a little surprising, and definitely valuable information for the future against this player. So this game is, I think the min buy-in is £250, the max is 2,500. So this next hand starts off with a limp from the low jack. It's the same player who had 7 high with us in the last hand. And he then gets isolated from what I think is a pro in the cutoff to £25. And we have ace king off in the small blind. Against a very good player in a weak lineup, I won't be free betting them out of position very often this deep. However, in live 2-5, I'm going to be assuming everyone is pretty bad until proven otherwise. So now, the guy who had 7 high, the limper, He calls the 110, and it's back on the cutoff. I'm now realising it was probably a mistake not to 4-bet the kings, as it's looking more and more likely he wouldn't have folded, even if he did have 7 high. So now the cutoff, he tanks for a long time. I actually had to cut down the footage because it was so long, and then he eventually makes it 350, playing around 1200 total, and it's actually a very awkward spot. Safe to say the pro has probably played with the low jack before, so now we have to figure out exactly how wide he's going for value here against me and him, and if he's ever deciding to bluff with a hand like ace jack or ace queen here. This is a situation where knowing the players is actually super important. Against specific opponents, I can definitely fold here. I don't know enough about this player to warrant it, so I move in. And with so much in the pot already, if he is ever folding, it's a massive print for us. I had to speed up and cut some of the footage because he tanked for so long, and it was close to 4 minutes before he eventually called. We run it once, and very good flop. We decide to just show so he knows what he's up against, and not to slow roller him. I prefer to keep things friendly for the most part in spots like this, but he eventually mucks an unknown hand, and we win a nice pot. So I'm still figuring out completely what I'm going to do. Some feedback would be great if you like seeing me play these stakes. I personally prefer, I think it's more exciting to watch the higher stuff, but I guess if this is some of the games you guys might be playing, it might be interesting to watch. I'll likely still continue to play at the Palm Beach and maybe do a session like this once a week. So onto this next hand, we have ace queen off, 7-handed, under the gun 1 makes it £20, and we decide to call. Making decisions in poker is all about presumptions and basically how you think others are playing the ranges and what you can do best to counter their strategies and exploit them. In this session, I don't think I'd played with many of the players before, so making a lot of stereotypes basically. I was under the assumption this player was likely a grinder here, possibly a pro. I decided to just flat pre-flop, it went heads up, and now we're facing a pretty huge continuation bet of 14 to 47 on the flop. I think versus under the gun 1 here, with no history, it's a little bit of an over-rep to raise, especially against this sizing. So we decide to flat call, and go ahead and see the turn. Not the greatest turn card, as we no longer have top pair, and some of his bluffs will now improve to beat us, and potentially facing a tough decision if he does decide to continue betting. He eventually does decide to bet, but he only decides to bet £60, which, along with the flop bet, which was nearly the entire pot, it just doesn't completely add up to me. We're also reasonably high up in our range, so we will be continuing and seeing what develops. So we river 2 pair, and now it's fairly interesting. Jack 10 gets there. We now beat King Queen, which was ahead on the turn, but we now lose to Ace King, which we were ahead of on the turn. A lot of his bluffs that were gut shots have now rivered top pair. So we get to the river, and he really doesn't have that many bluffs, unless he was just barreling with no equity, other than something like 9-10 or Jack 9. Facing a large bet here, even with 2 pair, wouldn't be that comfortable, as I think he wouldn't be vetting very many worse hands for value here. So we do call and hope he's randomly bluffing with something. And he goes to muck, but then shows pocket 5s, so we show and win the pot. This was a pretty short session tonight, but I was just wanting to testing the waters and see how this went. But we managed to book a nice win of £1,300 and cashed out £3,800 from £2,500. Next episode will be in Prague, so I'll see you there, and thanks for watching.